Picture a Russian city, real streets, Russian road signs, Russian military hardware, sitting completely cut off from Russia, wedged between Poland and Lithuania, with no land connection to the motherland whatsoever. That city is Kaliningrad. And the question of how a piece of Russia ended up stranded on the wrong side of Europe is one of the strangest geographic stories on the planet. To understand how Kaliningrad ended up stranded, you have to go back about 800 years, because this city didn't start as Russian. It didn't start as Soviet. It started as Königsberg. Königsberg was a jewel of Prussian civilization. The philosopher Immanuel Kant was born there, lived there his entire life, and is buried there still. For centuries, it was a thriving Baltic port city, cultured, wealthy, deeply German in every sense. If you'd told anyone in 1944 that this city would soon be erased from the map and renamed after a Soviet figurehead and nominal head of state, they would have thought you were insane. Then World War II ended. At the Potsdam Conference in 1945, Stalin made one of his most consequential demands. He wanted the northern half of the former German province of East Prussia, specifically because it gave the Soviet Union something it desperately needed: a warm-water Baltic port that doesn't freeze in winter. The Allies agreed. The German population was expelled. Russians moved in. Königsberg became Kaliningrad, named after Mikhail Kalinin, the nominal head of state of the Soviet Union, a ceremonial figurehead most people today have never heard of. Here's the part that matters. At this point, it's not yet an exclave. Kaliningrad is still connected to Soviet territory through the Lithuanian and Belarusian Soviet republics, all part of the same USSR. The trap is set, but it hasn't sprung yet. Then 1991 arrives. The Soviet Union collapses. Lithuania and Belarus become independent countries overnight, and suddenly, Kaliningrad is an island of Russia surrounded entirely by foreign soil. Russia never gave it up because it couldn't afford to. Kaliningrad is home to the Russian Baltic Fleet, one of Moscow's only year-round access points to the Baltic Sea and the North Atlantic beyond it. This wasn't a geographic accident. It was a deliberate territorial grab that history then locked permanently into place. And what Russia has done with that lock since is where this story gets genuinely alarming. So here's a quick one for you. If the Soviet Union had never collapsed, do you think Kaliningrad would still matter strategically? Or was the Baltic Fleet always the real reason Russia would never let it go? Drop your answer in the comments below, because what Russia has actually built inside Kaliningrad since 1991 is where this gets alarming. Look at a map of the Baltic states: Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania. They are NATO members. They are protected by the alliance's Article 5 guarantee. But there is one place where that protection is almost physically impossible to deliver. It's called the Suwałki Gap, and it is roughly 65 kilometers of Polish-Lithuanian border squeezed between two jaws: Kaliningrad to the west and Russian ally Belarus to the east. That corridor is the only land connection between NATO's Baltic member states and the rest of the alliance. Control it, and you cut Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia off from Allied reinforcement entirely. Kaliningrad is the western jaw of that trap, and Russia has spent decades loading that jaw with teeth. Kaliningrad hosts Iskander ballistic missiles capable of carrying nuclear warheads, combined with S-400 air defense systems and Bastion coastal defense systems. Those Iskander missiles have a range of up to roughly 300 miles, putting Warsaw and Vilnius within their reach, though Berlin lies beyond their maximum range. Warsaw is closer. Vilnius is practically next door. From a single exclave the size of a small American county, Russia can threaten the capitals of multiple NATO members simultaneously. The fragility of this arrangement became impossible to ignore in 2022. Lithuania banned the transit of sanctioned goods through its territory to Kaliningrad by rail, a ban covering between 40% and 50% of what Kaliningrad imports from Russia. Russia called it an act of aggression. A diplomatic crisis erupted over what was, technically, a country enforcing its own trade rules. That moment exposed the entire contradiction at the heart of Kaliningrad. Russia's most forward military position is also deeply dependent on supply lines that run through NATO territory it cannot control. Kaliningrad is not a geographic footnote that history left behind. It is a deliberate military forward position that Russia inherited from the wreckage of World War II and has spent decades arming. Its strange location on the wrong side of Europe isn't a problem Moscow is trying to solve. It is a lever Moscow is determined to keep. And right now, that lever sits at the center of the most volatile stretch of land in Europe. Kaliningrad sits stranded inside NATO territory, a geographical puzzle with very real consequences. If you want more stories like this, subscribe so you never miss one. Do you think this tension eventually escalates?